double, double, talk that trouble. Hex offenders in your bubble. Christian cackling, Shannon got receipts. Me and Queen sweeping up the deadbeats. Black nails, big laugh, side eye, deep cut. Name in the jar if you acting like a putz. Circle cast tight, mic in the middle. One wrong move, you a roast, not a riddle. They stir, they spill, they drag, they drag. Whole damn flock in a toe tag bag. Offenders, yeah, they came to fry your vibe. From the room to the group chat live. Hex offenders, if you fake, better duck and dive. Hot tea pouring, can't survive. Hex offenders. Hex offenders. Hex offenders. They like that candle, talk that smack. Turn your soft flex straight into a clap back. Which tips hit list, laugh till they cry. Sweet on the real ones, curse if you lie. Cauldron on boil, that gossip steam. Every bad ex get tossed in the cream. You did dirt, better hope they forget. Or end up headline of the episode's Hex offenders. Yeah, they came to fry your vibe. From the broom to the group chat live. Hex offenders, if you fake, better duck and dive. Hot tea pouring, can't survive. Offenders. Hex offenders. Hex offenders.
Hello, all. I used to have a show. Jesus. Anyway, lots to cover tonight. How are you, Miss Shannon?
Really good.
Can barely hear you.
Oh, let me move the microphone. Okay. Yeah, it finally decided to become summer in Michigan. It was taking its time to get here.
Well, I changed your settings. You should always double check to not check reduce mic background noise or automatically adjust the microphone. I'd have those unchecked and have your volume at the top, which I just did. So and if you're all here, do drop a comment in the chat. Maybe I should turn your background noise thing off. You've got a lot of it.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
It's summertime in Michigan. There's a lot going on outside.
Jeez. What the hell's that? Mercury is retrograde, so I'd expect 10 times the normal misery of technical issues.
Yeah, it's been off to a rough start, that's for sure. And between the going retrograde and the full moon happening at the same time, and then they turned off the Hadron Collider. Everybody's talking about that too. Everybody says that they can feel the difference in the time shift. They feel that time slowed down a little bit.
You're very echoey. What kind of microphone are you on this week?
Hang on, let me try something.
We really got to do the prep an hour early because there's always, like, you're on a omnidirectional mic somehow. You used to have a microphone, I thought.
Yeah, I'm on my regular mic.
What?
My ancillary one, yeah.
I don't know. It's terrible. So anyway, I have this kind of mic. You know, this is the kind of mic that you want to have because now I don't have any echo, and it's not picking up, you know, everything and its mother. You never want an omnidirectional mic. You want like a podcast mic. Do you not have one?
Yeah, that's I have the one that we use them out in the field. Like I clip it to my shirt. You know.
Oh, is it clipped to your shirt?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, when you moved it, it didn't seem to do anything, like change the sound. So.
Huh, that's weird. Like I said, Mercury.
Well, that's a little better. So you must have somewhere weird. Like if you have it too far away, and that is, by the way, an omnidirectional microphone, those little clippy ones. They're not actually unidirectional. Like this is unidirectional. This picks up this cone here. Just pick up here. Those kind of microphones, they're great for in the field. They're not good for this. Like,
Okay.
better off having this sort of thing. But anyway, lots of grunt.
Morgan.
What's that?
Oh, Morgan said that my sound was good. She said it was better.
Oh, okay. I'm hearing other weird background noise. I don't know what it is. It's always something. This week's topic is interesting, but we've got a bunch of ground to cover. You know, the big topic this week is this Alex Reed's tarot person and, you know, the ex-witches. But before we dive into that, I have a couple of points I want to cover. So,
Hi.
did you get her fucking candles?
Yes, I said her tracking numbers.
Candles. I don't know. So, well, the first thing is that I don't know if anybody knows that Warsaw Diana Rachel. She's been at Hexus and WitchCon a few times, and she and her, I'll call him her husband, Scott Boehm. Apparently, he's now a they, them, and Cinti, but this is going to sound transphobic, and I don't really care. If you hang things upon my identity that are not true, then you don't get to come to me and go respect my new identity. You know, and that's a little different than, say, racism or ethnicity or that sort of thing, because those are all immutable qualities. You know, gender is not an immutable quality. If it were, nobody would detransition. Nobody would be, you know, convert from trans woman to non-binary or non-binary to trans woman. You know, if those things were immutable, then they would never change. So they are identity. And I'm all for respecting someone's identity when they respect mine. So when you're lying about me on the internet and you don't even know me and we've never had a conversation and you got something to say about me and you don't like he, him, I'm probably going to use that. I'm not going to care. So don't hang lies on my identity if you want me to respect yours. It's sort of as simple as that. Diana and Scott, you know, Diana was liking a lot of that Amarella Moon crap, and Scott was actually making negative comments about me. And I thought we had smoothed, you know, I thought Scott and I had smoothed things out years ago. I even hired him to do this, what was it, shadow work meditation, which I, you know, obviously, if anybody's aware of their shadow, it's me. But, you know, I humored the guys, and you know what, maybe it'll grease the pole. You know what I mean? Like, I just, you know, maybe I'll make this a little easier. And so they were trashing me on this person's page. And of course, Diana's like, you don't tell me who to be friends with. Well, I think we can all agree, you know, those memes that go around that say, we can agree to disagree when it's about pizza toppings, but not if it's racism or the right of trans people to exist. I mean, you see that meme all the time, right?
Yeah.
Some variation on the theme, right? Okay, well, as a public figure, I do allow for the fact that many of my friends are friends with people that have never heard of me and, you know, say horrible things about me. And, you know, they know me, they've heard of me, but they don't know me. They've never had a conversation. They say horrible things. And my friends have, you know, you've got lots of people on your friends list that say horrible things about me. And I just sort of let it go because I'm a public figure, so I have to allow for a certain amount of that. However, when it's somebody like Amarella Moon or Nutless Wonder or somebody that's literally made it their mission in life to destroy my life, my husband's life, and the people we care about, and someone out there is friendly with that person, yeah, that's a line in the sand for me. And if you don't understand that, then when you post that meme that says, you know, that says we can agree to disagree on pizza toppings, but not on trans rights exist, then you're a virtue signaling woke hypocrite, because the reality is, like, they're trying to destroy who I am. Why shouldn't I care? They're trying to destroy the people I care about. whatever that is reading very loud on
I'm
that.
making myself something to eat, so you're gonna all have to deal with
I know. Hold on. I'm going to move this into the temple. Give me, like, it's just, I know it's just really loud. I thought he was going to order something, which wouldn't make this enormous amount of noise. But anyway, so my father always said in marriage, first comes the engagement ring, then comes the wedding ring, then comes the suffering. Anyway, so we're in the suffering mode. This is not a romance novel. So anyhow, if somebody is so desperate to hurt the people I care about, no, I don't want the people that are in their lives to be in mine. Is that really so nonsensical? Are you even here?
Yeah, I'm following you.
So it's like, yeah, I get nobody wants to be told who to be friends with, and I'm not telling anybody who to be friends with. I'm not policing their lives, I'm policing mine. Like, if you feel you need to be around that person that wants to destroy my whole life, then you should understand why I don't want to be around you. I'm not telling you who to be friendly with. I'm just, anyway. So I just got a lot of ground. This is the worst Mercury retrograde ever. So the first thing I want to cover is, so Diana, Rachel Warsaw, my husband never liked her. She was, well, he doesn't remember her name most of the time, but actually ever. But she was in the WitchCon meet and greet going on. Well, we're all polytheists here. She's on her wall talking about how she gets fat shamed. Like, speaking as someone who's overweight, I find the people that get fat shamed aren't just fat people. It's fat people with fatitude. Can we all acknowledge that such a thing exists?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously not the tiniest person in the room, and
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Pounds of fun, barreling her way with her sausage-like fingers clenched in fists of rage and her chin shaking, and she's telling you how it is. She's the very worst kind of badgering Warsaw that exists. And every one of you, even those of you that are overweight, a little like us, or even a lot, that aren't that way, you all know someone that is. I have makeup all over my face. Not fun. So we all know somebody like that. And she's absolutely that way. When she was at Hexfest, she was bossing her husband around. And when the stomach is down near the knees and the lungs are where the stomach used to be, there's a certain lowing sound that comes along. Along with that, am I wrong? I am absolutely being as mean as it gets, but I'm also not wrong. So therefore, I don't mind saying what is true. So, Warsaw over there, when I called her out and she's like, are you just afraid to message Cindy? I'm not Cindy. And I'm like, well, I messaged Cindy a bunch of times about the crap, or Scott Boehm, about the crap that he was saying there, whatever. And well, this is true of me as well. You put yourself out there that loudy, people are going to comment on, but then you're going to comment back. And I've yet to meet my match in that area. I always have the last word and the worst. So it's like, you want to play that. As my best friend Sean, my departed late best friend, used to say, if you're going to play the squeezed titty game with Christian and I, we intend to win. And we always did, and I still do. She went out there, and I couldn't understand. I thought the reason she stopped presenting at WitchCon was because I had Z Budapest there. and she's this super woke, you know, everybody's whatever they say they are, and you know, whatever. And you know, in the extreme, you know, I'm all for everybody's right to identify, but you know, if you start telling me you're a tree, you know, it gets a little weird. So, you know, I thought maybe that was why. And she never had the courage to come and say, you know, I can't present at your event anymore. She just said, oh, I'm just too busy. I don't do events anymore. I'm like, there she's doing other people's events and not mine. So it's like, why lie to me? I mean, you know, just tell me the truth. So she then puts out this post going on about the reason that she had an issue with me was because I called ICE on Elohim Blifar, Latino author. First of all, I did not do that. Sean Wild.
No, and that conversation is getting so old.
What makes it worse, so that people know the backup drop. So, you know, Elohim was like sidling up to that St. Elias, who was putting out to thousands of people that my husband and I were racist and were a racist shop. And, you know, because he used to be in my husband's coven, people thought, oh, well, he must know something. When St. Elias literally admitted to me on the phone, well, I know you're not racist, but your husband won't speak to me or acknowledge my coven. So I said, well, wait a minute here. So you're making me collateral damage and calling us racist because my husband won't accept your coven? What kind of motherfucker are you? You know what I mean? Which, not for nothing. To all my black listeners, I'm sure you know you know, I'm sure every black person that's ever experienced real racism knows what it's like to have false accusations of racism make people less likely to believe racism. You know, if you toss that, you know,
well, that's what I'm saying. That word gets so overused, it becomes to the point where it has no meaning, and then real racists get a pass.
Racism has become the boy that cried wolf. It's like if your fries are too cold at McDonald's, and you're racist because my fries are 10 degrees cold. You know, well then nobody listens to it anymore.
Yeah,
nobody listens to it anymore.
Right, it gets tuned out.
Again, and
then the real problems get overlooked because nobody's paying attention.
I was very upset with Elohim because he's sidling up to this St. Elias, and he, you know, and again, it's like, okay, you can be friends with who you want to be friends with, but I don't want to be around you. You know, if you're sitting there saying, oh, you know, he's a, you know, he's such an excellent, amazing human being. This is what, you know, Elohim is saying to me. And I'm like, I don't want to hear this from you about somebody that's literally waging a campaign that my husband and I are racist. I said, fuck you, one more word from you and I'll call ICE. So I did, threaten to. But it's sort of like telling your mother, I hope you die, which I don't know if you all did, but I certainly did more than once, and actually slitting my mother's throat. There's a difference. If you're not intelligent, look, I know I think most people are stupid, and I really do. But, you know, if you're so stupid that you don't understand that there's a difference between saying, I hope you die, and slitting your throat, well, I don't know what to say to you. But, okay, fine. I didn't think anything more of it until 2023 when that freaky Mara Starling, who Sean Wild is saying I threatened to have people go to in England beat her up, which I never said. I said my trendles can reach even to the UK because I would sue you. I would hire private investigators. I would absolutely fuck up your life legally, but I'm not going to hire. I'm not a violent, like I don't hire. If I were the type that hired people to beat people up, do you know how many broken legs there'd already be out there? It's just not my way. But, so Elohim had come out there and said on Twitter, oh, he not only, and Facebook, he not only called, they showed up at my house and ICE was there. So at the time, Wild was still one of my authors. So I called him up. I said, can you believe this Elohim? And he's, you know, saying I actually called. I would never call ICE on a Latino person. I mean, I hate the guy. And, you know, he is a liar. He's, you know, made false accusations about Judica Illes, Amy Blackthorne, you know, Andrew Chestnut, Matt Oren, and Devin Hunter. Elohim has called he called Matt and Devin known white supremacists. Now, I don't like Matt Oren or Devin Hunter, but they are not white supremacists.
No, that's just utterly ridiculous.
When I met with the board of directors of Llewellyn, I said to the president, Sandra Weschke, I said, look, I don't like that in Devon, but they're not white supremacists, known or otherwise, and that's such a destructive thing for Elohim to say. So, so I said to Sean Wild, I said, well, what do you, and don't leave the chat, Bert, because I am going to bring him up. So I said to Sean Wild, well, can you believe he's saying this? And so Sean says, oh, well, I did it. I'm like, wait a minute. Why'd you do this? And he goes, well, he called me a transphobic racist. And I'm like, well, okay. He calls everyone a transphobic racist. And lately, everyone on the internet calls everyone else a transphobic racist. You can no longer be a racist or a transphobe. You have to be both, which just shows you how ridiculously posturing all of this wokey pokey bullshit is. And if I didn't hate the right wing more, I would probably be busing people to the Republican polls, because I hate the left so much now, because it's just a bunch of liars. There's a few that aren't, but most of them are just most political extremists are liars, left or right. They're just all liars. So anyway,
they preach inclusivity until you disagree with them on a talking point, and then there's no inclusivity anymore.
There you go. So anyway, so I asked why he did. Oh, he called me a transphobic racist. And I said, well, did you not realize that they were going to blame me because I threatened to call? You knew I threatened to call. Why would you actually do it if you knew I threatened to call? They're all going to think it was me. And he's like, I didn't think of that. I'm like, he's not too swift either. And so then I said, his wife basically runs that show, in case anybody hasn't figured that out yet. Marta Carell called that from the beginning. And so then I said to him, well, are you going to tell people that you did this? And he said, no. So I said, well, if I go out and say you did it, they're all going to say I made you do it anyway, because, of course, everyone from Maxine Sanders to Lori Cabot is apparently my minion these days, because they just accuse everybody of being my puppet. So they'll just say I made you do it. And so then I was like, well, okay, if I go and tell people, they're going to say I made you do it, and then we'll be at war. And hindsight being 2020, if you've seen, the crusade this guy has waged on me for the last 2.5 years, there was a prescience to that, and I should have listened to my husband and disappeared more quietly from his world. But it would have been a great war. So what I said to him at the time was, I'm going to call out a favor for this. And after a while, and I started to distance myself then, because frankly, I couldn't believe he called ICE on a Latino author. I despise Elohim, but I don't think anyone deserves that. I mean, I did report them to ICE, but that's because, they were exploiting, or potentially, 2 former store managers and Michael Carell, who worked there, all told me that they were putting this kid on as a reader under the table. And I wasn't reporting the kid, I was reporting them. And I also reported them when they took over the Omen space, and it looked like he was brandishing a gun, which even a ICE agent on the phone told me, yeah, it looks like he's brandishing a gun. So, and he's not supposed to have one. So yes, I reported them for that. But they're also white and Canadian and have a multi-million-dollar property management company up there, which is, their stores in New Orleans are not successful. Just because they have 3 of them, they just keep dumping money in from those businesses up north. They're not successful. So anyway, then, I sent a message to Sean. I said, now I've got another author that I don't want you to carry because of that ICE shit. And I said, send Elias. And then Sean goes, well, that's fair. He doesn't carry mine. Is my Native American name too soon? This is the guy that, always says he's an indigenous, and now he's joking about Native American names. But the reason I got that message is I wanted to trap him in some way, so I had some sort of proof. And I get my haters won't, you could show video of him calling ICE, and they would not believe it. If I suddenly gained the power of teleportation, my haters would say it's because I can't afford a car. So, I just, whatever. So, anyway, I'm certainly not talking about vanilla ice or ice cubes. Obviously, I'm talking about ice, as in the agency, when I'm talking about ice shit. So I ask you logically, if Sean Wilde had called ice on Elohim at my behest, why would I be asking for a favor? Why wouldn't he be asking me for a favor because he did me a favor? No, he did this on his own. And he admitted it to Michael Carell, which I'll bring on in a second. But then last January, Elohim puts this up on his wall. That years ago, certain WitchCon Hexfest organizer proudly chose to take credit publicly of calling ice over me after threatening me to do it. And I remember how all the presenters of his event were just publicly laughing about and showing him support. Such an expression of racism in America, or just keeping silent about it because, well, God provides. They don't get paid for a workshop, simply not agreeing. Well, let me break this down for you. I think even those of you who listen in right now that are haters, and I'm sure like Howard Stern, I've got more haters listening than fans. If you have two brain cells, and I know that most of you don't, but if you do, people screenshot everything that I say. If it's up there longer than a minute. At one point, somebody had some script that automatically shared everything that I said to something. And so, nothing I say gets shared. If I had publicly bragged about having called ice, which Amarella is continuing to put out there with no proof at all, which Elohim has said more than once with no proof at all, if I had publicly bragged about calling ice on Elohim, and if this post, here's the big, put your brain cells together. If this post, all two of them, if this post were up long enough for my presenters to cheer and, support and laugh and all of this, if that post were up long enough for that to happen, don't you think that would have been enough time for at least one person to screenshot it? And so if there is a screenshot, in order for these people to cheer and laugh, there would have to be, I will give whoever gives it to me first $50,000. In fact, I've had this $50,000 reward up since last January. I've had a decade-long $10,000 reward for whatever racist thing I supposedly said on Dorothy Morrison's wall. Since 2011, I've had a $10,000 reward for proof of the word warlock being a traitor to other witches. Prior to the modern witchcraft revival, nobody has ever tried to collect this money. So if you continue to lie, why wouldn't you collect the money? I brought up Amarella Moon's house at Pecan Drive in Roswell, New Mexico, and you saw the picture. Like, her lawn is so desiccated, and I know she does her own plumbing because she's posted about it. So Amanda Parker, Amarella Moon, surely your lawn could use that $50,000. Surely your creaking plumbing could use that $50,000. Surely, if you have proof that I publicly bragged about having called ice on Elohim, you would have this proof. But you don't. And I'm offering you $50,000. Surely one of you brainless whores out there that hate me, that are listening, would want this $50,000. Surely you'd all be crawling over each other. It didn't happen. I might have threatened to call. I did not actually call. It didn't happen. So put up.
Oh, shut up.
Oh, shut up. Surely you trailer park whores need $50,000. I mean, I'm not exactly poor, but Jesus Christ, if somebody gave me $50,000 right now, like, I'd be like, Brian, we're going to Italy. Brian, we're going to Cyprus. Brian, we're going to wherever the fuck. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be, yachting down the fucking Yangtze. You know, it's like, yeah, we could all. Who couldn't use $50,000 fucking dollars? So there's Michael, who never turns the phone the right way because he's used to WitchCon or TikTok or whatever.
Yeah, he's quite the TikToker.
You turn your fucking phone sideways because it minimizes us. Thank you. Actually, that didn't change this at all. But at least
that
it
whole
makes you
thing?
look better.
Okay, so I'm here. So what do you people bother me about now? What? Oh, wait. I called you?
Yeah.
Shit, I called you. Okay. Well, as you know, my friend, I've tried to talk you off of many ledges before, and I've failed most times. But I figured, today I could at least, jump into a distraction from where I didn't think you needed to be. And according to Amarillo Moon and a lot of these other people on Sean Wild's page, you pay me? Where's my check, bitch?
Oh, no.
Where?
What it
You
is?
pay me.
No.
That's what they said.
No,
pay
what
me
it is?
to back you
No.
up.
That's the best part. Elohim said this too. Did I pay these people? Okay, you get $150 a workshop at Hexfest or WitchCon. They happen once a fucking year.
Yeah. I can't live off that. So you need to pay me more. If I'm gonna be blamed for all this shit, I need more money, bro.
I mean, $150 a year.
Yeah.
Is that our new living wage? Does this mean we need to actually lower the minimum wage? I mean, $150 is, that's making your fucking bank. I wouldn't get out of bed for $150. Yeah. Go on.
So on a serious note, Sean Wild, one time when we took our families, when he rolled into this town sucking on my tit, man. He really wanted to make a connection with me. And then it was before I realized he's a clout chaser. He wanted some clout. And even though I hadn't been here that long, apparently I had some fucking clout that he wanted to suck off. So we went to tacos and beer with the family. And the family was sitting down, and me and Sean were making the orders at the thing to bring the tacos out. And that's when he told me. He told me that he called ICE on Elohim ICE. I mean, I've said Elohim my whole life. It's Elohim Lafar.
1 second, because Judica and I talked about that. Because we all thought he was an author for Wiser at one time.
Yeah.
And we all just thought this must be some weird Spanish way of spelling Elohim, but Elohim is spelled the same way in Spanish as it is in English. So that Elohim that he does is just like.
I've never understood that, but I was trying to correct myself to be correct. But we were in line, ordering our tacos, and he told me that he called ICE on Elohim Lafar. And I just looked at him and I go, why'd you do that? And he goes, well, he said some stuff to me on Facebook or something like that. And it really pissed me off. And it's like, wow. And this is before, ICE was ICE, and what we know about ICE, but ICE was still ICE.
Wait a minute.
He fucking told me that.
No, I need to say this. Look, I get people like, how can you come, well, I didn't call. Well, actually, I called one. How can you report them to ICE? Look how racist they are. Well, aren't the police, I mean, not always, but the police have a history of racist behavior. We're all going to call the fucking police. I don't take any fucking tool out of my box. I don't take any tool out of my box. So if you don't want to deal with the worst of me, I don't come for me if I didn't send for you. If last week wasn't a lesson for this community, I literally was so close to calling every church within 50 miles of the shop that hired the pedophile. And I would have done it if that's what it would have taken. If my attitude is, if the magical community wants to associate witchcraft with pedophiles, I'll help them. I'll use a powerful platform to help them. But if they choose not to associate the witchcraft community with pedophiles, I'll help them with that as well. Really?
Well, as you know, You know, I've never been a redneck, but as you know, I'm an anarchist, and so I embrace the rednecks finally re-embracing yeehaw, fuck the law. They were never supposed to be like backing the blue and all
Well,
this.
you're gonna love this. So this is so moving on from Elhoim and
Mm.
Nutless Wonder. So we all know that last week's episode, and I outed a store that hired a convicted child molester. So
Oh yeah,
now,
I heard something about
oh
that.
no, 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 it gets better. It gets better. So today, I get this notice sent to my store, basically petitioning for a protection against stalking, because I made the mistake of actually telling the owner of the store, I'm going to go out there and do this. And they've requested that I don't go within 100 feet. And apparently, if I don't appear in court in Florida on the 7th, maybe they'll get it permanently well, not permanently, for a year. Maybe they won't. But, it's very hard to say you can't talk on social media. I don't have to contact this. Obviously, I made a lot of comments on their
It's
wall.
not like you're going to Florida.
Right. I made a lot of comments on their wall. I suppose I can't do that again. And I'm really not going to mention this person again because I won everything I wanted to win. But I do, like, literally, not only did the British Traditional Wicca Discord server remove this person as an admin, which they hated having to do. And people behind the scenes said, well, they thought you were just doing it to be petty. I said, first of all, I ended my friendship with Alexander Cabot, who I liked, because he refuses to distance himself from the convicted child molester. So
I mean, yeah, I was on their show.
right.
I was like,
So
where do I know Eddie Massey
it's
from?
nothing
It's like,
to
I
do.
was on his show.
No, but it's nothing to do with who's my friend and who isn't.
Yeah.
Like if you, Michael, hired a child molester, yeah, I'd give you the courtesy of a phone call. But if you didn't do the right thing, we probably wouldn't be friends. So it's not about who I like or don't like. It's what's right and wrong. But of course, these haters don't understand that. They have no concept of right and wrong. So, I get this thing, because I sent it to my lawyer. But the amusing thing about it is, like, first of all, when am I going to Cocoa, Florida? I have no desire to see Cape Canaveral or, like, I'm not ever going to see this person. I've never actually seen this person in person. So when am I ever going to see this person? Now, somebody might say, oh, he can't mention you on social media. Well, I'm not planning to, but here's the thing. I will if I want to, because that's something I would fight all the way to the Supreme Court. Because you don't have a right to tell me I can't tell the truth. If a store hired a sex offender and I say that, that's not illegal. And I don't think, and when I explain that, if I can zoom in to the judge, I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to explain that I have no interest in contacting this person again, but, if they hire a child molester, I have a right to say it. And at the end of the day, if I can't say it, you goddamn well know 10 million other people will say it instead of me.
Well,
like, let's face it,
can I tell a story really quick?
No, because I need to get to this piece. Well, what's it about?
It's about you.
No, I don't want to distract too much because we actually have a topic.
It's about you, the wilds, the
No. I don't want to.
protection order.
We're done with him. We're done with him. So, and I don't want to. Like, we're already too far off from the topic, and I want to get back to that. But I want to say that in this request for a protective order, not only was the person I contacted put on the list of any named family members or individuals, so was the convicted child molester. Mm-hmm. So this guy is continuing to double down on the child molester. And elsewhere in his description, he's saying how, it's compassionate that he hired a convicted sex offender. I'm not seeing the exact words here, so I'm paraphrasing because this thing is fucking long. Oh, yeah. My lawful association and care to a friend who is a registered sex offender. Nice friends. Can I just say nice friends? Is that illegal? Am I violating a restraining order to say nice friends? My
Probably.
care for my friend who is a registered sex offender, who's not only a registered sex offender, he was convicted and pled guilty of indecent assault of a minor under 13 and corrupting a minor, and he pled down to those misdemeanors from felonies of, they were originally charging him with, unlawful sexual assault of a minor. And again, shout out to Alexander Cabot. I don't know why you insist on having this person around. I think it is terrible for the Cabot tradition to be using their name and potentially associating them with a child molester. It cannot happen. If you haven't, he blocked me rather than address the issue. So, which tells me he probably has no intention of dissolving that friendship. That's fine, but I'm going to say it on this fucking thing, and there's probably Cabot's listening, and I'm going to say, no, that needs to be distant. I'm
going to say that people hate Christian more than they hate pedophiles.
Oh, that was the other thing.
Yeah.
So somebody put on that fake Sean Wild page, which I didn't create, by the way. If I did, it'd be a lot worse, and I don't do things anonymously. But somebody put on there, well, I hate pedophiles too, but they never did anything to me, and you did. And basically,
Whoa.
tried to paint me.
Did? What did you do?
I don't know.
What did you do, Christian?
If it's who I think it is, I fired them for telling me who I could let in my store. It's this meth head with no teeth that actually made terrorist threats to one of Wild's own psychics that worked for him. Her name's Janie. She's missing half her teeth, and she had a nerve commenting on Jay, our tour guide, who has a medical condition for her teeth. So this person, you can't meet. No, I fired you because you said, I couldn't let Jay in my store. Nobody tells me who I'm going to fucking have in my store. So, they said I was worse than a pedophile. And my favorite thing from last week, though, was when, because Deborah Lipp married Isaac Bonowitz. And look, I don't know if he's a pedophile or not. I'm very skeptical. Well, he's dead now. I don't know if he was. I'm very skeptical. But, because Deborah, and Melissa Payne, their people have been on that BTW Discord mistreating people. And so, that's what made me look into this whole thing with the shop hiring the child molester. So I get this message from Melissa Payne. I'm begging you to leave mine and Deborah's name. I'm begging you. You can tell people I begged you. I live for this shit. I am going to give Melissa Payne a wonderful compliment. She's so much smarter than all my haters because she finally learned the most salient truth, that begging is the only option any of you have. You can't get rid of me. You can't shut me up. You can't really stop me. There's nothing you can do other than not come for me when I don't send for you, or come for me and then beg me to stop. Those are your choices. You don't really have any others. And I love that fact. So I'm going to move on, and unless you're going to be on that particular, I don't know, Michael, if you've seen that topic of Alex Reed's tarot, but that's what we're going into now.
I have seen that. I mean, I'm the TikTok witch, and I don't care. I don't care.
Well, then I'm going to say, all
you
right.
decide to become Christian, whatever.
Well, I'm going to say good. I'm going to say goodnight. We're going to go back to Shannon and I. Yeah. So basically, Alex Reed's Tarot, who has about 1 million followers on TikTok, announced on June 25th that she was quitting tarot for Christianity. She deleted all her posts or made them private, is what I really understand. Rebranded to Alex in the Ordinary, but she didn't condemn tarot or the witch community. In fact, I watched her video. I thought it was very polite, and she said, I'm not coming down on any other people, but because of things that have happened in the past, the TikTok community's gone absolutely nuclear on her and saying she's called it evil. She's calling tarot evil. We shouldn't call tarot evil. Well, Christians think tarot is evil, so she must think tarot is evil. That's not what she said. You're the one that brought this to me, Shannon. So
Yeah,
take it away.
Looking at both sides of the coin, first and foremost, everybody should have autonomy when it comes to their faith. That is a personal thing. You should find comfort in your faith. You shouldn't dictate your faith to anyone else, or so on and so forth. The biggest problem I saw, because I agree with you, she didn't go on there and say, "Oh, the tarot's the devil" or anything like that. The problem that I had went back to ethics, which I always go back to ethics on everything, is she stated that this had been something that she had been struggling with for about a year, going back and forth on it, basically examining her life and her choices and so on and so forth. Okay, if you were in this spiritual crisis or spiritual changeover, my problem is ethically she continued to take money from people and do readings for them. So if you were questioning your spirituality and you continue to take money from these people that paid for your house, paid for your lifestyle, okay, I've got some issues there, because if you were really questioning whether or not this is what you were supposed to be doing, why did you continue to take money? Are those readings valid? Were you just reading a script? Were you really providing a service? And it goes back into, let's take it back to Miss Cleo.
There's a complexity to this, because tarot itself, I know Laurie Cabot always says it's a keyboard to the psychic mind, which I love. Tarot does feel psychic ability, but you can use tarot without psychic ability. I did for the first 3 years before I took Laurie Cabot's class, which was life-changing and helped me to understand my own psychic ability. I didn't think I had any psychic ability. So I read tarot, as, what card came up and what do I interpret it as? It was very symbolic and interpretive. Well, if that's how you look at tarot, you could be skeptical about it and still do the reading. And interestingly enough, I've always been a very skeptical witch. In fact, Sean used to, call me the atheist witch, and my best friend, and he would say, he'd quote the practical magic. Well, how can you claim to practice witchcraft when you turn up your nose at it? So I am that person in a way. I am that person. Like for the first 3 years of my doing readings, and various times throughout my life, I've questioned magic. I've questioned the craft. I've had doubts, but I kept doing it because it worked. So when I've seen that argument, I totally get the ethical side of it. But at the end of the day, if the readings were good, then, maybe she continued to be that good interpreter regardless of her personal feelings. Some oracles are meant to completely get out of the way. If you are possessed by a spirit that speaks through you, well, your opinion of personal ethics no longer, you could be the biggest Jesus freak on earth. But if, some spirit that isn't is coming through you, well, then doesn't that sort of negate whatever that person is? I just think there's different angles. I see that argument and I can mostly agree with it, but I see sort of cracks in it, in the sense that, well, what if the readings were good? I'll be honest, if I knew somebody was going through those questions, I probably wouldn't go to them for a reading. But then look at the people. I have people that went to me for readings 35 years ago that still try to get readings from me. And I was in my own skeptical mindset at the time I gave the reading. And 35 years later, they still want me to do another one. So I guess, I don't know. Is that enough to roast her the way that they are?
Well, I think that the way the community looks at it, and again, she never came out and said, "Oh, tarot's evil," or tarot. She never made any statements like that. But I think one of the areas that becomes problematic is it reinforces that whole mentality that, oh, she denounced it, so it's evil, it's of the devil, or whatever. And I think that even though she didn't physically say that, I think that's the vibe that's being put out there.
Well, things are often cumulative. So, yes, if 20 people before you said, I'm abandoning tarot and it's evil, well, they're going to kind of put that on you. And I do think there's a degree of that happening where, she's paying the price. And and this does happen because I remember when Pastor Phil Wyman, who's passed away since, he was my favorite Christian and just a wonderful human being. When he first came to Salem to start a church, and I said to him, I said, Phil, whether it's fair or not fair, you're going to pay the price for all these crazies that have come to Salem all these years, the ones that still come to Salem all these years. And, you're going to be held to them. So I do think that this lady is, Alex is being held to this other standard. I do think there's valid criticisms, but it's become so scorched earth. I'm listening to some of these videos. I should have downloaded some of them to show, but they just sounded so ridiculous and so personal and frankly, to use Merriam-Webster's word of the year last year, parasocial. Like I really identified, I thought, okay, I'm going to hate this woman. I really identified with her because I saw so many lies being hurled at her at once. That
right.
Trying, obviously you and I are intelligent enough where we're going to be able to sift through all that noise and get down to, okay, here's the actual ethical questions. Like what you said really is the only point that I think is a fair criticism. It's harder for me to put it on her because I've done readings at times when I've gone through crisis of faith, and one might say, well, why'd you do it if you weren't really sure? And I'm like, because the readings were good, and I, you know what I mean? And I used the science that Lori taught me and the psychic ability, and it wasn't that I was pretending it was working. I was just trusting the process. Maybe I still have doubts. When I had that lightning come out of my hands on Ghost Adventures, and I went over to Lori Cabot, because she had the light coming out of her on National Geographic magazine, and she's 93. And I said, Lori, does it ever get old? Does it ever get old? Do you ever lose that sense of wonder when something miraculous happens? And she said, no, because we all have our doubts.
Oh, yeah.
Really, I've never heard Lori say, oh, I've doubted, but any person does. Even Lori's going to be like, Jesus, what have I been doing all these years? Is it real? If you have like a week where nothing magical happens, you might question it. And then something amazing and, lightning comes out of my fucking hands on a Polaroid and no one could fake it. And it was incredible. And, that's going to give me years of, but even then I'm like, I'm messaging, paranormal people going, could this be fake? I'm even analyzing and being skeptical of the miracle that happened to me,
your own self. Yeah.
Right. So in that regard, it's like, well, yeah, I think there's a certain disingenuousness to her to continue to make money from it to a point.
Yeah, I guess that's it, because it wasn't like she was doing like 5 little readings in a store. Like we're talking.
No, I get it. And she made it into that, what the hell is that song there? It's in here. Oh God, why is it? Oh,
no.
Haley Williams of Paramore. I don't know who Haley Williams is.
Oh yeah, that band. Yeah, they made a song and she's mentioned in the song. Yeah.
Yeah, Alex reads tarot, but apparently she did it live recently and basically said Alex read the tarot. Made it. Past tense because whatever, but the thing is, it's everybody has a right to, again, your identity is your own, and
right.
I have a number of evangelical friends, like the Pastor Phil and John Moorhead, and there's a few of them out there that are evangelical. Even that David Miller, that their church used to protest. Well, they still do, but they're not horrible. Like they were, they come to my circle, we hug each other, we have a nice conversation, and they start preaching Jesus, and they don't treat me like a monster. And so, I respect their identity because they respect mine. I don't agree with their positions, but I respect their thing. It's the same comment I made on my wall about the trans thing. It's like, if you demand I call you by another set of pronouns, and your pronoun for me is child molester or murderer or the other things people hang on me, well, then I'm not using your pronouns. You respect my fucking identity, and I'll respect yours until the law says otherwise. And I don't think America is ever going to have like a misgendering.
But that goes back to, because I'm always on here complaining about TikTok, and that goes back to so these people are attacking her, which again I totally support her right to explore her change of faith or change of heart or whatever. 100% her right to do that. But these people are attacking her because they feel betrayed by her. So, at what point how do we separate the persona with who the person really is? Because the internet's not real, and we know that, but yet some people wholeheartedly believe it is.
You just highlighted the most parasocial piece of this, of they felt abandoned. Who the fuck are they? You know what I mean? Like, if I put myself out there, and I just posted an old video from the 70s of one of Streisand's interviews about when she was doing the movie Star is Born, and she's talking about, like, my thing is the work. I don't care about the other side of fame. I hate the term superstar. I just want to do my work and make the work. And like me, as a Capricorn, I'm real hardcore. Like, when I made this rape comment 12 years ago that people keep trucking around, the first thing that hit me was, oh my God, they're not going to remember my work. I'm a Capricorn. It's not about me. It's about the work. And Streisand, same way, and she's like, and they say this and they say this, and they feel like they own me, and they feel like, well, we raised you up as a celebrity and we can tear you down. And there's this parasocial ownership to this. And it reminds me, like, this thing that they feel abandoned by Alex Reed's tarot reminds me very much of how Oprah Winfrey's ratings would drop whenever she lost weight, because all the fatties felt like she abandoned them. And it's like, well, first of all, her weight journey has nothing to do with yours.
No.
She's a talk show host. She's not a diet fucking, you know what I mean? Like, it's the last thing that should be. But like, and I did buy her. Remember, she had that Bob Green or whatever that was her personal trainer, and they came out with the book.
Oh, yeah.
About 30 years ago, and I bought the book, and I was just like, yeah, okay. And then she got fat again. But her ratings would go down when she lost weight because all the fatties felt she was abandoning them. And I'm like, how is your weight loss journey relevant to hers? Like, what, to be either lose your weight, don't lose your weight, be happy being fat. And that's the thing. It's not to me about body positivity. There is nothing body positive about Diana Rachel. She absolutely hates being a fatty, because if she didn't, she wouldn't be such a miserable fucking war sow. Like, a fat broad that's not happy being a fat broad. Well, first of all, Sean and I, one of these days I'll get into the taxonomical categories of chick, because there are kinds. You've got your fun girls and your badgering war sows and your cis boom bar girls, and there's certain kind of personalities that emerge when people are unhappy about their weight. Like, when you meet somebody that's really heavy that used to be pretty, they don't have the same attitude. It's there is a fucking fatitude. There is. And any hill I'll die on, it's that. And people can be offended by it. I don't really care. Like, the fact is, Diana Rachel is an unhappy fatty, and that manifests in her behavior to everyone. She's belligerent, she's bossy, she's demanding, not in a way, I know people say, well, if a man was that way. No, if a man was that way, I'd call him a fat broad too. It's a state of mind. There's a difference between being assertive, like a Streisand,
right, and literally throwing your weight around.
Streisand, all those horrible things. But in reality, Streisand, yes, she's demanding. She does not suffer fools. But Streisand does not have fatitude. You know, there's stages to fatitude. You know, they come at you all, and then the moment you fire back at them, suddenly the tears come, or, you know, like they start comparing you to their rapist, or, you know, there's this whole process that these behemoths go through to try to put it on you. And no, Lizzie just said, and I mean, look, I'm thinner than I've been in a while, but you know, I'm a fatty.
Yeah, you and I both have had ups and downs with our weight. Yeah, we're not strangers in this realm.
Learn how to own it, you know, because I have met really heavy women that don't have fatitude because they just don't really have a problem with, like, there's a difference between saying
Comfortable with who they are.
there's a
That's
difference between people that really are body positive and they just don't care, and it, you know, you know they don't care because they don't have fatitude. But you can totally read the insecurity of the people. They're going, well, I know about body positivity and fat positive, but there's nothing about them that's positive, jovial. It's like that fucking scene in, and I've never seen the show, but The Big C, and what's her name from Precious? Gabor Sidibe or whatever.
Oh yeah, I don't know how you pronounce her name. Yeah.
So she comes up to the, you know, she makes all these cracks at the teacher. Oh, you late. Oh, you this. So the teacher brings her up and goes, "You can't be both mean and fat." She says, "Fat repels people. Kindness, you know, fun, jolly attracts them. So if you're gonna be fat, you're gonna be jolly." It was something along those lines, but it's the truth. You know, it's a very unfair world. I don't think it's right, but pretty generally wins. And
we know that there's pretty privilege. It's a fact.
You know, I'm an okay. You know, I was better looking in my youth, but you know, I'm not a bad looking guy. But I'm not, you know, a 10. I'm not, you know, nobody's chasing me down the street. And you know, I mean, granted, I have a pretty handsome husband that's much better looking than me, but you know, so I managed to land somebody. But point is that I get it, you know, and if I'm going to be a massive cunt, people are going to say I look like Uncle Fester, which they do. So, you know, I'm just real. You know, I've dealt with this for years. But the thing with this lady is, I think it's also the state of mind we're in as a culture. Those of us in the magical community are sitting on eggshells as these Christian nationalists get more and more emboldened to the point where, you know, they're coming and vandalizing our shops. And it's like somebody asked me the other day, why do you care what Amarilla Moon says? And I'm like, well, it's not that I think of her hardly ever. Like, you know, she did a whole comment somewhere about the kind of gaming computer I bought. Do you think I know anything about her household appliances? And but when the Salem News posted about the vandalism from the Christians, and I'm trying to get the attention of politicians, and I'm trying to get the attention of the Attorney General of Massachusetts, there's Tim Reagan's boyfriend Vinny, and there's Amarilla Moon, Tim Reagan the Oathbreaker, and Amarilla Moon, and they're just making the whole thing about me and how horrible I am and all of this, and it totally distracted from the goal of trying to get something dealt with about these Christians. And I never did hear from the Attorney General's office. I never got much support from the local politicians. So it could be that Amanda hit her mark. You know, she made it about me, so nobody cared. So I hope she's happy that my staff member Sean Kelly was punched in the face by one of these Christians to the point where he was bleeding, that multiple stores were assaulted. Joanna Thomas got called a whore at New England Magic by these Christians, and all of this was made more acceptable by Amarilla Moon's behavior. So yeah, I don't like her. Like, how fucking dare she? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But the thing is, we are all sitting on these eggshells because of the past. you know, which is why I brought up, like, you've got the document too. Was there one that you were particularly interested in some of these, you know, because we got a whole deep dive of various ex-witches.
Right, yeah, and the list is extensive. Yeah,
Just like the pedophile one last week. I remember how shocked, so shocking how many people, like the fact that the shop owner that I called out last week is literally defending himself to the courts, saying that, you know, I'm caring, and, you know, my friend is a sex offender. It's like, come on, what are you doing on?
but circling back to what we were talking about with the whole social media personas and everything like that. So, how much responsibility do influencers, quote unquote, have when their livelihood depends on their spiritual practice? Like, again, I don't fault her for wanting to switch lanes. That's her personal opinion. But again, how much responsibility should that person have? Because, like you pointed out, she's not the first person to do this. Definitely not. I mean,
well, and she is dangerous in that regard because she kept her platform. Like, she still has all
exactly. That's where I was going.
Followers, and there were tons of people in her comments from the Christian side of things saying some of the most awful things about us. And it's like, okay, I can at least blame her for that. Like, why, you know, you said you were going to delete your account, put up your video, leave it up for a week, and fucking delete it, because now,
yeah, and then move on, go to church,
go to her thing, and so even if she's not saying horrible things, she's got an army of Christians on the comments of her video saying horrible things. So she is contributing to it, and I tried to explain that to Melissa Payne about her and Deborah Lipp, and she's like, well, we're not doing anything. I'm like, fuck you, bitch. Because there's lots of people in that British traditional Wicca Discord that are treating people bad in Melissa and Deborah's name. Now, let me ask you, Shannon, how do you think I would treat somebody that used my name as a weapon? Do you think I'd be kind?
No.
Like, if you were out there going, I'm not letting you do anything because of Christian Day. If I saw somebody, I don't see them. I don't ask people to defend me very often. Like, I love how people talk about my minions. I don't need an army because I am one. So, like, but if somebody went out there, because my father was a pot smuggler, and if I went out there and, you know, one of the biggest on the Eastern Seaboard, and if I went out there and said, my father's Ron Marshall, and I would have fucking, like, he would have thrown me down a flight of stairs. Like, if I weaponized his name, you know, I don't like it done for me. So if people are on there and they're making horrible comments and she ain't deleting them, or at least, you know, turning off comments, you know, the smart thing would have been to turn off the comments, make the video.
Yes, that to me, that would have been
not allowed to be stitched. You know, not allowed to stitch it together and the whole 9 yards. And then, but because she rolled out the red carpet to these freaks, you know, I don't like the hyperbole of the people attacking her, but I understand the emotions, because it's like, we've had this for years, and Salem has been ground zero. You know, we had a guy here, I'm gonna, why the hell here? Okay, here we go. So Eric Pryor, who died in 2009, I think he was he hit by a truck, I think.
oh God.
The witches will get you. They'll get you. They will get you. He was a San Francisco figure who, around Halloween 1990, organized a pagan Satanist public cursing of televangelist Larry Lee, billing himself as a high priest of San Francisco Satanists. Then he abruptly converted to born-again Christianity and was marketed as the witch who switched. Bay Area pagans disputed that he was ever a significant witch. He later worked as an occult crime expert for law enforcement and had a criminal record, and died in 2009. But here's the thing. He tied to Salem because it was Jeffrey Fenholt Ministries that brought Eric Pryor to Salem. He did a big, you know, thing, like in 91, I think it was. He did a big thing at the what the hell is it? 92 maybe. It was a big thing at the Salem State University auditorium. And Sean Poirier was there with Jerry Hildebrand. And they offered Sean $20,000 for his first lecture as a new witch that switched. They were trying to get Salem people to do this. And so, you know, that was back then. Imagine what they'd give me. And so, you know, and that was when Sharon Graham, you know, Lizzie, what is her name now? It's, I can't remember. She has a different name, but Lizzie, Sharon's daughter.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Oh, yeah.
Elizabeth Autumn Nellis. Like, she's an editor for Crosscrow. She's great, very talented. And, you know, really came through hell and high water. So I applaud her. But she was just an infant when the Fenholt Ministry people came along. They grabbed Sharon, they grabbed the baby carriage. They started praying over Sharon and the baby carriage. Imagine somebody coming and grabbing your baby.
Your child, yeah.
And at the time, then Attorney General Scott Harshbarger, who was attacked for doing this by Governor Paul Cellucci when they were running against each other for defending witches. But Scott Harshbarger was a much tougher attorney general and progressive than this moron who's in there now in Massachusetts that did nothing about these Christians. She was thinking, she's busy fighting ICE. Well, you can't fight ICE and, you know, crazy Christians at the same time. Well, she's fat. So fatitude. So Scott Harshbarger put a restraining order on Fenholt Ministries that they were banned from all of Massachusetts. Eric Pryor, all of them. You know, and Sean's always said, and I still say this today, you know, to these people out there that think Christian Day is just in it for the money. He's not a real witch. He's not magical. Well, first of all, I have the hot husband, the great career, the 2 homes, you know, the one, you know, the occasional vacation, and, you know, whatever. I have all the things these people sell potions on Etsy for. So, you know, hello. But the thing is, if this was just a money grab for me, imagine what I could make on that Christian lecture circuit. Like, become a witch. If I became one of these ex-witches, I wouldn't lose my income like Doreen Virtue did. I'd be out there on the Christian lecture circuit. I'd be running a whole mega church with 20,000 people. And, you know, I tell my husband, well, we'll have to carry on in the basement. We got to keep ourselves on the down low. You know, it's like, no, this is not a money grab. I would not be a Christian. I don't like what these people do. But Eric Pryor, you know, what made these people so dangerous, you know, in Eric Pryor's case and in many of their cases, they become these law enforcement experts and they start feeding names like Oberon Zell or Selena Fox or Starhawk, and they start, or Lori Cabot, and they start feeding these names to the FBI and other law enforcement agencies as a cult criminals. You know, there was a pastor in Salem years ago, Russell Ely, who, you know, his people in his church wrote this letter to the Salem News in 1991 saying that Lori Cabot was running an occult mafia and that there were missing children. They don't just say, oh, witchcraft is evil. They go beyond that. They go to endangering us. You know, our friend Amber Hallisey, you know, back in the 80s, you know, she's older, you know, her kids are long grown, but she lost her kids in a divorce because she was a witch.
That was satanic panic times. I mean, we were there. Yeah.
When I say to people last week, I'm willing to start a whole new satanic panic, and I meant it. I know what that means. I remember how bad that was. But that's how important it is to me that the witchcraft community does not link itself up with pedophiles. I literally have a court document. I told you earlier. I have a court document from a Florida court where a shop owner is defending their pastoral care of registered sex offenders and having them in their store. So this person's still doubling down on this. And it's like, how can you double down on this? And so, yes, if you witches out there want to associate our community with pedophiles, I'll speed it up for you. I'll help you. I'll contact all the churches. I'll say, hey, the witchcraft community loves pedophiles. Here's all my examples. And last week, never mind, at least the person in question here is not using witchcraft as part of their pedophilia, as far as I know. But look at all the people we explored last week who used witchcraft,
right, as a tool for
that Tim Ozpagan Hartridge, that runs the Witches Workshop group, that's like a hater of mine, has got some nerve because he tried to bring Robin Fletcher back into the community 9 years ago. And Robin Fletcher not only raped and trafficked 2 15-year-old girls, but he used witchcraft to seduce them. And then when he was convicted and put away for 10 years on his charge.
It should have been longer.
Well, no, it was longer. 10 years on his charge, and then when his sentence was completed, they felt like he was still dangerous, so they kept him under supervision for another 10 years. So that's how bad this person was. But when Robin Fletcher, who Tim Ozpagan wanted to bring back into the pagan community or magical community, when Robin Fletcher was charged, he said that his rape and trafficking of these 15-year-old girls were part of the initiations of his Wiccan religion and therefore were religious freedom. Like, actually used the craft as a tool not only to rape and traffic women, but to justify it in court and say
that was the word I was looking for. He used that as a justification for his actions. That's horrific.
Right. Well, this is a warning to the witch community. If I ever feel like that's becoming the majority of opinion, and a lot of people did defend this shop owner, and this shop owner is still doubling down. If I ever get the sense that that's the case, I will scorch the entire earth of the witchcraft community, and I won't feel bad about it. Like, I will literally make the witchcraft community something associated with pedophiles, since that's obviously what they want. Like, if that's what you all want, I'll help you. And I'm a master of publicity. So when I do it, there will be another satanic panic. And I won't feel bad about it, because I will simply look back and say, well, you deserve this. You could have dealt with this. Alexander Cabot could have dealt with this. The other guy could have dealt with this. And they didn't deal with it. So, if you don't, like I said last week, if you don't master the laser beam, well, I'm not a laser beam. I'm the wrecking ball.
So, switching gears real quick back to what we were talking about the Alex Reed's tarot thing. In the research in this, Christian obviously came up with quite a list of people that this is not new for, and you in the audience, I'm sure you're familiar with over the years people. The one that resonated with me the most, and this is a combination of not only being in the magical community but also being in the goth community and stuff like that, was Jessica Galbraith. When we were younger, we all had her artwork on different forms. We had posters, we had trapper keepers. I mean, you name it. We had stuff that
aren't her giftware still sold by Pack?
I was just gonna say that I actually at one time the candles, dark candles, we sold tart warmers, wax warmers that had her artwork on it, the dragons and unicorns and everything. And when she departed from the scene, so to speak, she basically tried to be quiet about it. But then she went on and started doing like interviews and talk shows and different things like that. And she went so far as to claim that in her younger years, when she created a lot of this artwork, that she was possessed, like it was a demonic possession and stuff. And it's like, okay, but you're still taking that check, because I know you're still getting royalties off of all that. And at that point, that was when I discontinued carrying anything that had her images on it, because I just felt, again, I support people's wanting, having a change of faith, change of heart, whatever. You're your own person. By all means, go with what resonates with you. But don't criticize it if you're still taking them checks to the bank.
Well, isn't Doreen Virtue still getting her royalties? I mean,
oh my gosh, yes, she most certainly does. Yeah, she still owns all the rights to that stuff.
She says she lost 70% of her revenue, but hey, she still got 30% and she's still making money from us.
Exactly.
That part pisses me off. Like, if you're going to still make money from something you think is demonic, it's sort of like that stupid, I don't even know who he writes for. Is it Moon Books? I can never remember. That idiot David Salisbury in Washington or Maryland or wherever the fuck he is.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite thing about, he basically got Ruth Barrett fired from Cherry Hill Seminary and then tried to get Louisa Tish fired from Cherry Hill Seminary. And he and that ghastly Thorne Coyle quickly found out, just how tough the black aunties can be. But David is a vegan and works with PETA and would protest in a bloody chicken costume in front of the KFC, and then hired my friend Hoodoo San Moise to do a Palo ritual where a rooster was sacrificed and not eaten. And so you can kill a rooster for your dark magic, but I can't have my fucking 2-piece and a biscuit. It's like, yeah, don't go out there and try to shame us for buying tarot cards when you're fucking making money out of it. But, I can't go and buy a tarot deck, but you can make money from all the people you sold yours to, you cunt. Like, yeah. It's like fuck that. If people pay attention to me at all, and I'm always happy when someone does, but you'll notice that I really get my hackles up when it comes to inconsistency, hypocrisy, double standards, those sorts of things. Like the person going, I hate pedophiles too, but they've never done anything to me and you have. Well, let me ask the audience. Does a pedophile have to have done something to you personally for you to repudiate that person on the strongest of terms? Like, someone is convicted in a court of law, don't we say the people versus so-and-so? It's the people versus so-and-so, because when they commit a crime, they're committing a crime against society. Well, a pedophile is committing the worst kind of crime against society. Does that person really need to have done something to you personally for that person to not be, to be worse than me? Like, apparently I'm worse than a pedophile. Like, that was the takeaway for this past week. Okay. But no, that Jessica Galbraith, I didn't know until I did this deep dive. I was more in tune with the more old school people like Michelle remembers.
Oh, yeah.
And she was really the kickoff. Michelle Smith and Lawrence Padster that did Michelle Remembers. She wrote this book in 1980 with Canadian psychiatrist Lawrence Padster, and later he married her, and they used discredited recovered memory hypnosis. It claimed Smith endured satanic ritual abuse as a child in 1950s Victoria, British Columbia, is widely identified as the foundational text of the satanic ritual abuse panic. And remember how many daycare centers and people went to.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was horrific, yeah.
So when I was threatening a second satanic panic, I don't think most of these, 22-year-old, non-binary pink hair people have any real concept of what that means. Like, that was a real fucking threat, because it's like, this is bad. And, she was the founder of all this. Every investigation failed to corroborate her information. Her father and sisters denied the event. She had no missing school year. The book ignored her two sisters. Padster coined the term ritual abuse, consulted on the McMartin preschool case, and trained police. The 2023 documentary Satan Wants You further dismantled this. Now, this was the beginning of where all these people were having these, I remember this abuse and all of this, and you got it through hypnosis. Another example of my beloved political horseshoe theory, because back then it was the right wing doing this.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Now it's the left wing. I remember I was raped 55 years ago, and now I'm going to tell you about it. No, I'm not saying they're all false, but yeah, it's the left wing with the sudden recovered memories. Well, like I've always said, 25 years ago, born again Christians were burning Harry Potter books, telling me to fuck pussy and calling my sexuality a preference. 25 years later, radical left-wing trans activists are burning Harry Potter books, telling me to fuck pussy and calling my sexuality a genital preference. In fact, I had a trans man a couple of weeks ago saying, I'm not offended by your genital preference. I'm like, it ain't a fucking genital preference. It's biological. I'm attracted to dick. Fuck off. I will respect your identity, but I am not going to respect you redefining mine. And I
No, and again, like I keep saying, everybody has the right to be who they want to be, but you can't make another person.
No. No, I told Yesha Matthews when she and Z were getting blasted for that pecan ritual with the woman born women only thing that was such a controversy and all of that. I said, you know, Yesha, the problem is we're in a misogynistic society and people don't care how women feel. And so they're coming for the lesbians. And I realize this isn't fair, but we are a misogynistic society. And when they start coming for the gays, it's going to change. I am convinced that a huge chunk of this backlash against trans rights is absolutely the gays. Almost every gay person I speak to has my opinion on this, but they would never say it publicly because they don't want to be canceled. But it is funneling behind the scenes because in the past decade, there's been a 5,000% increase in the presence of trans men. When I used to go to a lesbian bar back in the early 90s, there were no, I saw trans women and never saw trans men. So now you get all these trans men going, you know, fuck my gay pussy. And I'm like, no, I'm not into that. Sorry. I crawled out of that Charybdis maw 56 years ago and haven't looked back. But, you know, that is more of that horseshoe theory, this whole, I remember this, you know, and Michelle remembers, I mean, that was probably eclipsed only by this next person who is the worst. And I read this book, The Satan Seller, back in, I believe it was 1991.
I remember reading that book too, yeah.
And I remember, Sean made fun of me for years. I think my husband did too. Because I did a whole Cabot thing. I wrote on the front, the first paper page inside the cover, I neutralized the power of this book to cause harm. It's very Cabot. But, this guy would go on talk shows and talk about, I used to be a witch high priest and I was this degree and I was this and I killed babies and I did this and I blew up a gas station with my mind and, you know, all of this. And it's like when these people would debate Cabot on the talk shows back in the 80s, when the talk shows were much more salacious, you know, Cabot would just ask them, well, why aren't you in jail? Like if you
Right.
had babies, why aren't, you know, and if you went to a law enforcement, which just shows you how fucked up law enforcement is. Because when these law enforcement agencies were hiring these people that were coming in and going, I used to be a Satanist and a witch and I killed babies. Well, why didn't they start with them? Like if somebody comes in and says, I killed a baby, like, why aren't you investigating? Like, oh, I'm going to go investigate Starhawk because this person that admitted to killing a baby says Starhawk is evil. Well, why didn't you start with the fucker that said he killed a baby?
Yeah. Let's back this up here.
You know, just if I sound like I think most of the world is stupid, it's because I do, because I see, you know, you can go into a police station and say, I killed a baby. Can you go investigate Starhawk? Well, why ain't you starting with the person that said I killed a baby? So he had claimed he did a ritual with Charles Manson, who had been in jail at the time. There was these two, it was the evangelical magazine Cornerstone. There were two journalists, John Trott and Mike Herdenstein, who were Christians, who did a huge expose on him in 1992, and they totally destroyed all his claims. And it was the Christians that policed themselves. It wasn't the witches that took him down. It was the Christians.
It was. You're completely right.
You know, so when somebody polices their own, Alexander fucking Cabot, when somebody polices their own and doesn't have friends that are fucking sex offenders and aren't shop owners saying, Your Honor, I care for these registered sex offenders. I can't even believe the shit I'm reading. At the end of the day, if they get the restraining, like if I can't zoom in and defend myself, I already sent it off to my lawyer, but if I can't zoom in and defend myself, I'm just going to let it happen. I ain't ever going to Cocoa Beach. I ain't ever going to Florida. And, we just won't mention his name anymore. But I can promise you other people will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't control the world. Other people have a right.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a private sex offender list. If you're a sex offender and you're on the list, anybody can access that.
Well, not for anything. You can sit there and talk about him for the entire show as long as I don't do anything. So, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, it ain't for me. Like, you think there aren't 20 different ways to lick a Tootsie Pop? So, it's Mike Warnke was the worst, because he wasn't just on the fringe. He was, this king of Christian comedy. He was a comedian. He'd sold over 1 million records. The Satan Seller reportedly sold 3 million copies. Tennessee's governor declared a Mike Warnke Day on June 29th, 1988. And I mean, seriously. You know what I mean? Like you had a governor putting this, his Satanist photo showed a clean-cut college kid. He claimed that in 1965 and 6, he had waist length, white hair, 6-inch fingernails, and 1,500 cult followers. A photo from April 1996 shows a normal short-haired student.
Totally fake.
But they're all like, these people did so much damage, and they cost so much. So many people to lose their children. This would be hysterical. A show with Christian with duct tape on his mouth while Shannon talks about stuff. That might be fun. Brian did say he finally watched, my snotty husband that only, he's so serious and everything's going to be so, not that he's not funny, but he doesn't like this kind of trashy humor. So he finally caught last week's episode and he's like, well, it's really good, but you don't let Shannon talk enough. And I'm like, okay.
I'm a good listener. I think that's what teachers are.
Well, I mean, this, I think the fear, naturally I don't like seeing this fuckery on TikTok because most of these TikTok witches are just total retards.
Yeah, my favorite are the 19-year-olds that are selling you generational wealth spells. Oh, really? In your 19 years, you.
Yeah, they got a lot to learn. But while I can say, I think it is. I think the criticisms are excessive regarding Alex Reed's tarot specifically, but I also feel like. I feel what's underneath all of that. Well, to a point, because let's face it, most of these little brats were not around during the Satanic Panic. So
right.
When I make a threat like, I'll bring another Satanic Panic, these kids are like, they don't know what it fucking means. They don't know what, they aren't even old enough to have been kids taken away from their parents in the 80s. You know what I mean? Never mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they don't have any concept of what why people like Oberon are fighting against the rise of Christian nationalism, why these cunts like Jerry Hildebrand are like, they haven't come for the pagans yet, you whore. They just came for them in the military, fucking. Is an example of, so she had her stomach stapled back when that was a thing. She should have had the mouth because that would have killed two birds with one stone. But she is an example, because she used to be like 600 pounds.
Right.
Stomach stapled, but she never got rid of the skin. So she looked like a fried egg hanging on a nail.
She looked like she melted.
But she has the worst fatitude. she's the most dangerous kind of fat broad, which I call the cis boom bar. They'll sell their own mother down the river. They will cut anybody's throat for the smallest feeling that they matter. You know, whereas Diana, she's got a little bit of that cis boom bar, but she's mostly what we call the badgering war sow. And Jerry is the most dangerous type of fatty. And, you know, she really came down on Oberon for speaking out, you know, regarding the Christian nationalists. But what fucking choice do we, you know what I mean? Like, we are at the precipice. I'm still fucking mad at you, Bernie or Buster people from 2016. I'm still bitter about that. Because I know you and I have had this conversation. You have never minced words on this. It was May 18th, 2016. And Trump said, I will only nominate from this list of 11 justices provided to me by the Heritage Foundation and the Federalist Society. Well, the non-binary pink hair people suddenly discovered the Heritage Foundation with Project 2025. You know, they're too stupid to know, or they weren't, you know, too young maybe to remember that in 2016, the Heritage Foundation, which was always been very powerful, gave this list to Trump. And the moment he said, I will only nominate from this list, I called up Pastor Phil Wyman, because he was kind of, well, he used to say I'm right of right and left of left. I mean, he had some right-wing views. I loved Phil, but I said he hated Trump. He was one of those Christians that would never support him. And I called up, I said, you know, he's going to get the evangelical nomination with this. And Phil said, yes. And I said, because no president, left or right wing, no president, left or right wing, has ever given their balls away like that. Like they would say, I'll nominate pro-life justices, or I'll nominate, you know, pro-choice justices, but they never take a list. And so the moment he took that list, I said, if we don't stop him from getting into that White House, it will end Roe, it will end abortion, it will end my marriage, it's going to end voting rights, it's going to end trans rights, it's going to do all of this. And then you had the Bernie or Busters, and some of the Bernie or Busters on that now defunct Jack Pine radical site were like, no, we might support Trump over Hillary because Trump's more of an isolationist, like Bernie. I hope you're all happy with Bernie, because now, you know, they just voted to, you know, the Supreme Court just supported states' rights to ban trans women from women's sports. And I still have mixed feelings about that anyway. But, you know, I don't support these fucking whatever you call them, you know, these fascists, and on the right. But, you know, much as I pick on the left, I still hate the right more. But now, like, abortion is gone. My marriage is holding on by a thread with the laws. You know, and I get it. I have friends like Stevie. There's a few of them, you know, still defending that they didn't, you know, refuse to support Hillary. And it's like, if you really believe we would be in the state we're in right now if Hillary had been elected president, I don't know what to tell you, because, you know, we would not be in this state. You know, because if Trump didn't win, Trump never really wanted to be president. It was like an ego game. And when he actually thought he could win, well, that was amazing. But if Hillary had, you know, for him, but if Hillary had beaten him, I don't think he would have seen Trump on the political stage again. So we are still.
No, I agree with that. I think he would have just went back to doing him, and yeah.
I do have to say one thing. This isn't fair to let this. I thought it was obvious that. So that Hartridge video, you're not getting into my coven unless I get some loving. No, that's actually I did that with AI. That's not really him saying it, but yes, it is creepy. But yeah, no, he didn't really say that. And yes, I could probably get sued for it if he wasn't all the way in Australia, which is a place I never want to go. But Hartridge did try to openly bring back a pedophile into the community, and one that not only was one, but used the craft for it. And so, you know, and I noticed even a lot of my haters at the time, you know, they're people I don't like, but they at least rightfully stood against him. You know, there were a number of these people like Josie Winter and Ryan McLeod I fucking detest. but they were very strong against him bringing this pedophile back, and I did appreciate seeing that. You know,
I'm just blown away that we're even having this conversation. Like, to me, this should just all be a non-issue. Pedophile? No. It should be that simple. I
literally get this restraining order request, and I'm reading it, and he's like, I provide pastoral care, and my friend who's a registered sex offender. I'm like, how?
That's not a claim. You think it is?
You know, I mean, how many people could get away with publicly saying, my friend, the registered sex offender?
Oh my God.
Like, my friend, the registered sex offender.
Yeah.
Callie is right. And to, you know, just to beat an old dead joke, but it never ceases to be funny for her and I. But the champagne of this country is definitely fucking burned.
Yeah.
The champagne is burned. Obviously, there's poison in the bottle at some point. That's a scene from Dynasty. But it's like, we should have known better. And then they did it again in 2020, but thankfully they still went for Biden. You know, they still went for Biden. But, you know, it doesn't matter. Yeah, Trump getting back in 2024 was bad, but the damage was already done. Most of his court picks, weren't they all? He didn't pick anybody this time around yet, right?
No.
All of these problems we're having with the courts are the result of the 2016 election. And first of all, I haven't gotten over fucking Ralph Nader and hanging Chads, you know, in 2000. I'm still bitter about, you know, the Nader traders and, you know, like, I still, you know, the political purists are like, Lena's tired of the lesser of two evils. Well, just because someone, first of all, there is no good. Every politician, some degree of evil. Even Bernie. Every one of these fuckers, there's something wrong with them. Well, they wouldn't be. They're all fucking liars and scumbags on some level. But, you know, there's a degree. Yeah, Hillary had her. Well, I don't know. To me, Hillary didn't have any flaws. But, I mean, I loved Hillary Clinton. But, you know, and let's face it, you can say what you want about Bill Clinton. He was a dirty old man. But everybody had money when he was president. Like, nobody was bitching.
I have said that over and over again. There was money to throw at the walls when that man was. I'm sorry, there was.
If he was able to, if he could run again today, he'd win, and so would Obama. You know, I didn't like Obama's positions on Iran, but I did like Obama a lot, and you know, he brought class. You know, Bush was like sort of trashy, but not that bad. You know, and Clinton was really trashy, you know, and then, you know, Obama brought that respect back to the office that neither Bush nor Clinton had. And now we've got, you know, reality show, you know, it just couldn't be worse. You know, it just couldn't be worse. But for that brief moment we had, you know, and Biden was, you know, he was respectable, but he was barely coherent. But he was, but Obama had that respect to the office. But we really are in danger here, because it wouldn't take much. When I looked at Philip Renner's ministry, and their willingness to, you know, come in and vandalize my shop, you know, it's and there was a point where, and he does put the link to the YouTube. Like, I am not taking that YouTube down. I would fight that all the way to the Supreme Court, because I have a right to call out a store. It's not harassment to publicly call out somebody hiring a fucking child molester. And if it is, I will sue to the point where it is not, because that's just wrong. I'm looking for this.
I still can't believe that the parole officer would be okay with that under the terms of you can't be around children. You're going to tell me children don't come into that store that sells children's books?
It's unbelievable. I don't imagine a judge. I mean, if I get a chance to testify, and I can zoom in, I don't imagine he'll get it. I don't much care if he does, because I don't think, like in Salem, when Lori Bruno got that bogus order, the judge said I couldn't say anything on Facebook, and my lawyer said, you could fight this. I just didn't. I didn't care that much. She's old. But this, I'll fight. Like, I don't think a judge is going to say you can't say anything about a shop hiring a pedophile. I'm not, like, I don't want to contact this person. Not, like, now that I know he will always be this person, why would I want to contact him? Obviously, he's literally said to a judge, I'm a pastoral care and friend, to this registered. Like, if you went out on social media and said, my friend is a sex offender, like, nobody would tolerate this. Like, how can this guy double down on this?
Like I said, I can't even believe we have to have this conversation.
Well, I'm not really expectant of a judge in what is probably a very conservative area.
I was just going to say that we're talking about Florida here. Let's start there.
Right. I'm not expectant that the judge is going to say, shut up on social media. They'll say, don't contact this person, don't go near them, because when the hell?
That's fine, yeah.
First of all, my husband hates theme parks. I'm always wanting to go to Harry Potter, and all that, but we never go. So the likelihood, the only place in Florida I could see going with him at this point, and I don't know if he'd go, but I know Lorelai and I loved it, was Key West. That was fun, and I could see going there. But it's and right, sex offender registries aren't doxing.
No, like I said, they're public knowledge for everyone.
The main issue was that I contacted him and threatened to contact all these Christian churches. But again, contacting the Christian churches is, not a crime. It's like they have a right to know. If you've got a sex offender in your neighborhood and you're a church, and you have a right to know.
You have a right to know this.
Not for nothing. I don't want to contact all the Christian churches. I don't want another satanic panic. But I'm quite sure that if this guy hires that pedophile back, I won't ever need to say a word. I'm sure by now, plenty of other people are upset about it. And it's just like, it's horrifying. It's horrifying.
I don't want us or our craft associated with pedophiles in any realm.
I'm going to go one step further. It won't be. Or if it is, it will be in the extreme. Like I said, if this community wants us to be a red carpet to child molesters, I will burn it to the ground, figuratively speaking. I will torch the entire witchcraft community before I allow my religion and my faith and my practices and my life to be associated with people that would sexually harm or in any way harm children.
Yeah.
So,
sex offenders are outcasts in prison. So if fellow inmates don't even support your life decisions, why should the magical community?
It's disgusting. It's
disgusting.
I can't believe this guy's still doubling down. I can't believe I'm still hearing about this fucking Elohim ice shit. And the thing is, and not that Diana cares because she's fat, but her post tags Elohim, which means, now here's the thing. Last week, the Supreme Court of the United States supported Trump's right to end the Venezuelan asylum. How do you think he's here? Elohim is here on asylum from Venezuela. So now that Diana is talking about this and tagging him and accusing me of this, I'm forced to defend myself. Now, while I did not call ice on Elohim, I am going to say this. If my being forced to defend my name against this false allegation results in him on some plane to Venezuela, oh fucking well. I have a limit. I don't want to see him deported. I think he's a douchebag, but I don't, Venezuela's, I wouldn't send anybody to Venezuela. I do find him amusing though, because briefly we spoke again late last year, and I gave him all the proof that it was actually Sean Wilde at Call on Ice, and the whole thing, and he understood it. But I did joke with him. I said, Elohim, you used to constantly rail against socialism, because he comes from one of the worst socialist countries. I said, you used to rail against socialism, and I know since you made all these trans and wokey pokey radical leftist friends, you no longer rail against socialism. Do you still hate socialism? And he says, oh yes, it's terrible, it's this and that. I said, I think it's interesting how all your friends have basically browbeat you have no will of your own to actually speak on what you really feel. Like, that's the thing I hate about the Wocus Pocus. Nobody's like, my politics are what they are. They're somewhere mostly left, somewhere in the middle. They're whatever they are. They're wherever I deem them to be, and nobody else's opinion's going to bully or force me into saying what I don't want to say. So I do feel bad for Elohim in that regard, that he's been basically neutered in terms of his political views. But if he ends up on a plane to Venezuela a la Trump because of my having to defend myself, well, I'm not going to feel bad about that. Diana Rachel forced my hand. She put this out there, and now I'm talking about it. So, I'm just not dealing with this, the way they want me to deal with it. I'm not going to back down. If this all ends up in him hiring the pedophile back, people will know. If he thinks that I'm the only person looking,
no, this woke up a lot of people.
Right. So if he decides, oh, well, I've got a restraining order, Christian can't talk on social media, which is very unlikely for a judge there to do, but they might, and if they do, I won't say anything. But here's the thing: if they do hire that person back because this emboldens them in some way, I'm not going to be the only one looking and talking. Like, there'll be a lot of, and I won't be looking. Well, you might be looking, but I won't be talking. But all these other people will be talking. You think you're going to hide hiring a pedophile in a witch shop? It's just ridiculous. And it's, if either party does not appear, orders adverse to the non-appearing party may be entered, including dismissal or interview. It's like, I am not flying all the way to fucking Florida for this. If my lawyer can get a Zoom meeting or something like that,
I'm sure they'll Zoom.
Well, I can always go, hitting all the homeless encampments until I catch COVID, and then then maybe they have to let me. Well, I get COVID now. It's apparently stalking. I'm a stalker. Yeah, this is.
Not sure how it's stalking, but
I did message him and said, you're not going to be able to bury this, and I did comment on his wall. So I did go to his territory, so to speak. But it wasn't like I was threatening violence or anything like that.
No, you weren't hanging around outside the business or anything like that.
A criminal history involving violence or threat of violence, I don't have that. Like, I love how these people just make shit up. Like, they really just make it up as they go along. It's like, okay. Well, I just submitted this notice of related cases. There are no related cases. Okay, there's no related cases. That's nice. Well, anyway, there's nothing saying I can't talk on social media, but I'm just not going to. Here's the thing. I got everything I wanted. Do you know how pissed off those initiates in that BTW Discord group must be? That they were forced to their knees. That Melissa Payne begged me to stop speaking about her and Deborah Lip. They begged me. I mean, what are you going to do? I don't know. I mean, here's the solution. Don't come for me if I don't call for you. Is that really so hard? Like, I don't say I am, okay, I might not be clinically narcissistic, I am a little bit narcissistic. I'm definitely self-absorbed. I'm
You're
in
a Capricorn.
I am in my own. My husband says, he came to me last night. He goes, I'm sort of in my own little world, and he feels like if I feel I'm neglected sometimes, because he's in his own little world. So am I. We're in our own little world. We're just two ships that occasionally crash against each other. But don't fucking go for my husband. That's the other thing. That fucking cunt, Fatty Diana. Fatty Diana. She should be the next song. I'm gonna parody. Fatty Diana. I can't do Michael Jackson's voice. Fatty Diana. Anyway, so she says to me in the middle of this conversation, "Did your husband pull a gun on you?" And I'm like, what is this fucking behemoth talking about? So I'm like, no. What? I mean, so first I said, "What are you talking about? That's the stupidest thing I've heard." And then she pulls the fat cuntitude, and she's like, "I noticed you didn't answer the question." I said, "No. Where are you hearing this?" "Well, I haven't talked about it because I wasn't sure if it was true or not, but I heard it and blah blah blah." And I'm like, first of all, why are you hurling this? Like, what the fuck? My husband and I had a fight during COVID, and that was, it was because he didn't want to bring pizza into the house because he thought I would infect the world. So, it was a little bit of a. First of all, who didn't have massive fucking fights in COVID when we were all trapped in the house? Like, you never had one.
Oh my God.
Right? It's like we've had that kind of fight since fucking 6 years ago. And he certainly didn't have a gun or pull a gun on me. Then this fucking cow. Well, I did sort of say he didn't like her, but that was after she was being a douche. Because we're all polytheists here. Bitch, you don't have multiple gods. You have multiple chins. So, you have polyfolds. You're a polyfoldsiest. She needs to get giant toilet brushes to get between the rolls. But anyway, she says to me that my husband is a fraud who rides my coattails, and that if I had self-confidence, I would ditch him. First of all, I've had only a few of what I call proteges in some sense, people that I had a name before them, and I sort of introduced them to the art of publicity. Some of them did well for a while, like Leanne, at Pentagram. She's
I agree with this statement.
I don't know who Brian's journey. Who are you? Someone I know on social media by another name. So Brian will love this. Your husband doesn't need a gun. I have the feeling he could kill with a look. Truth be known, yes. So you don't want to be on the risk. Most of the staff.
No, Brian is stone cold.
You've been on the receiving end of my screeching, so people know my screeching. But most of my staff would rather deal with my screeching than his ice princess. Like, it's much scarier because there's no getting around it. You can sort of appeal to me, but but like, so here's the thing. There's like two, because Leanne sort of, she went on what not to wear. She learned how to look pretty, and then, then they basically scrubbed. I thought Sean had her looking much better when he was alive, but now she's just, and embracing the crone. If you're going to do your white hair shit, do it like Jane Fonda, who still looks fucking gorgeous and glamorous with white hair, or Helen Mirren. Don't look like Leanne fell out of a fucking mop closet. But two people really have just gone beyond protege. One is Lorelai, and part of that, well, she was a famous burlesque star long before she knew me, so she knew fame and how to work it and all of that. So she's really taken that, witchy fame ball and ran with it. And so is my husband. Does anybody think my husband is some sort of carbon copy of me, or in any way some sort of step and fetchy sort of minion or whatever? It's like, he's built his own identity, very distinct from mine, very distinct, to the point where we couldn't do this show. We might do our food show together, hopefully, eventually, because I got all this equipment I bought. Something that we might have fun together, but we can't do a witchcraft show. Our styles are way too different. you know, and our thoughts about magic and the craft are very different in some ways. And so, like, this idea that he's some sort of extension of me riding my coattails is ludicrous. Like, there were people at the Grand Sabbath that went there because he was there. Like, they didn't go there because I was there.
Right.
I mean, and it's, you know, to watch her insult my husband on this level, you know, and then she's like, you know, Cindy has much more credibility than you guys. And I'm like, no one knows who her husband is, first of all. Looks like he's gained about 200 pounds. So he's actually, I mean, you know, Diana, you definitely married the right person, because standing next to that, you do look thin. Well, not thin, but thinner. You know what I mean? You just, you know, you stand next to the 2 times you want to stand next to the fattest person in the room, or you want to be next to the fattest person in the room at 2 different times. If you want to look thinner, or if you're swimming with sharks. Find the fattest person, swim next to them, and you're more likely to survive.
We're at time.
They're on their period. You know, if they're fat and they're on their period, you just but yeah, who is this hoe? You know what I mean? To continue on and do this. And you know, and the other thing is, with this rise of this Christian nationalism and, you know, these crazies on the right, the fact that the left, particularly in the magical community, but all the left really, that we're all at war with each other and all trying to cancel each other, because God knows they couldn't even cancel Mel Gibson. You know, the left wing practices cancel culture much more than the right wing, even though the right wing invented it. If you must know the history, they did invent it. The left wing cancels far more people, but only each other. They're not good at. Well, maybe that's what they want. But when you're all canceling each other, who's left to fight? You know, they're idiots. And, you know, these people all trying to cancel me. Well, first of all, they're never going to. I just, you know, it's all very amusing. It's, you know, I think you all need to take a lesson from Melissa Payne. Either you just ignore my existence, don't come for me unless I call for you, or beg me to stop. Those are really the choices. I know it's not fair, but nobody ever said life was fair, Tina. You know what that's from? You know what that's from?
What?
You don't know what that's from?
No, I do know what that's from.
Nobody ever said life was fair, Tina.
Yeah.
Tina, bring me the axe.
Why do you think my kids are named Christopher and Christina? Lizer.
But do you think this is clean? You. No, wild hangers. Yeah. On that note, lovies, you know what I was thinking of doing next week? I never know if people like the topics or don't like the topics. People seem to like the topics, but I don't know if they like the topics or don't. But one thing I thought of is bringing on a couple of New Orleans magical people and talk, like Kalila, that owns.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, let's do that.
Talking about the magical history of New Orleans and some of the stories and things like that.
Magical place. I like that. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. All right. Good night, darlings.
All right. Everybody have a safe 4th, and remember, you can hate your government but love your country.